And once we have covered array.off, now let's take a look at the array.from. And the way array.from works, it returns an array object from any object with a length property or an iterable object. And you can also think of it as array.from turns array like or array ish into array. Now, when we think of array like and array ish, you can think of strings, you can think of node list, or for example, set. Now, we haven't covered the set, but we're going to do it later on in a section. And we're going to start simply by looking at the string. We have a string, the Udemy. Of course, it is a string of Udemy. And then in order to save the real estate for the variables, I just went right away with console log, where I'm console logging out the array.from, and then we're just passing in our string. And you're going to see that in the console, we right away are going to get our array, and each and every letter in a string is going to be item in the array. So that would be a simple string example. Now, I also would want to take a look at how we can work with arguments object, because arguments object is array like. And the way we can do that is by setting up the function first. So we're going to go with count total. And this is going to be good old regular function. And you're going to see something very interesting if we console out arguments object. And this is a keyword, so make sure that you type it in correctly. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And then, of course, let's call our function and let's say count total. And then let's pass in whatever arguments. Since we're going to be counting total, I'm going to be passing in numbers. But as always, you can technically do whatever you want. But of course, your functionality is not going to work if you're not going to be passing in numbers. I'm going to go with 67, 89, and then I don't know, 54. We're going to save it. And now within the console, I can see, okay, so I have the arguments. Awesome. But it is a array-like object. Essentially, it does have the length. But the problem is that if I would want to, let's say, use map or reduce in order to count these numbers, I'm not going to be able to, because again, it is array-like. It is not an actual array. And you can probably already guess that we're going to use array.from actually to turn our arguments, the array-like object, into actual array. Now I'm going to comment this out, and then we're going to say let total is equal to array.from, and then of course we're going to pass in again the arguments object. Just make sure that you type it in the proper name because it is a keyword. So if you're going to type it anything else, then it's not going to work. Once we have, of course, our array, now we can use whatever methods we would want. And in this case, I'm going to use the reduce. Remember, within the reduce, we passed in the callback function as well as the initial value. Now, in this case, since I'm using the arrow function and I know that there's going to be a one-liner, I'm just going to omit the curly braces. And then within the callback function, we pass in two arguments. We have the total. So total we're going to be returning as well as current iteration because we're calling the reduce against each and every item in our array. And we can call this however we want since we're passing in, of course, as parameters. So you might see this one, the accumulator and current. This is a pretty common practice. But in my case, I'm going to call this total and current number. And then what I'm returning from the function is total added by the current number in each iteration. So in each iteration, we're going to take the current number and we're just going to add it up to a total. And essentially, we should get total from all the arguments that we're passing in. Let's console out the total, and we're going to see that, of course, this is our sum. If I'm going to add 100 more, you're going to see that I'm going to have a 310. And there you go, I have it in a console. And that's how we can turn array-like or array-ish into array. And just to recap, array.from turns array-like or array-ish into array. And in our examples, we covered string as well as arguments object that is within a function. An arguments object just gives us access to all the arguments we're passing into the function. But since the arguments object is array-like object, that's why we needed to use array.from if we wanted to use any of our favorite array methods.